Hi everybody, John here from All Miniatures Great and Small, and today I was going to do a quick review and look at a new game that we've been playing called Gaslands. Gaslands is a post-apocalyptic vehicular combat game from Osprey Games, and it's created by Mike Hutchinson. Osprey has a series of games like historical games, futuristic games, and this was one of the games that they released that's really gained some traction, I think, in the community, pun not intended, because it really scratches the itch of vehicular combat. It's pretty cool, especially for an old guy like me. I don't know, you guys out there might remember the old Steve Jackson games, Car Wars. I loved that game when I was young. GW had, I forget what their car game was. You guys can tell me in the comments below. Dark Future or something like that, which was vehicular combat and post-apocalyptic vehicular combat, which is cool. But Gaslands, we're really enjoying. So we're going to go ahead and take a closer look at the book. All right, so here's a closer look at the rule book. This is a 64-page kind of soft cover, smallish book, but it's really cool. So here at All Miniatures Great and Small, we like to play not just the big games, we like to try a little bit of everything, and this has really been a lot of fun. Now, kind of the catch with this is kind of the kit bashing nature of it. This is about a 20mm scale game, and it's designed to be used with Hot Wheels cars and Matchbox cars. So it's quite liberating to go out to the store and buy miniatures for a team, buy some Hot Wheels cars for a team, and it costs you $1 a car. That is awesome. Particularly if you're used to paying GW Battlefront prices for stuff. It's pretty cool. But we'll talk more about the cars themselves. Let's talk about the book. So this book is available on the Osprey website, and they also, I think you can get this on Amazon as well. Pick it up. It costs about 20 bucks, I think, for the hardcover. You can probably find it cheaper some other places. There are PDF versions as well, but I like having the paper if possible. We're not going to do a page turn review or anything like that, but just kind of go through the book and give you an idea of some of the artwork in here as well as the rules. So the concept or fluff of this game is that the Earth is in a wasteland. All the rich people have left, gone to Mars, I believe, and in the wastelands, gas is currency, and the sport of choice for everybody is racing. So this has teams, it has races. So it's not quite the Mad Max barren wasteland. There are organized races that are going on and teams there. So there is some structure to this universe that there's in, but that just opens up more options for you. You could be a Mad Max style, very feral, ramshackle team, or you could be a very high-tech team. Both of those are equally viable in the fluff. The other cool thing that I'll just throw out is you could ignore the fluff and just use this however you want. If you wanted to do Mad Max gaming, you could do that. I was talking with my son, and he had the idea of using you could use the rules for pod racing for Star Wars if you wanted pod racers. You could use this for pretty much anything that would simulate some kind of vehicular combat or movement. All right, so the rules themselves, let's talk a little bit about the rules. So this has more than a little dash from X-Wing in it, and that is not a bad thing. But to say it's an X-Wing clone or copies X-Wing, I think does this rule set disservice. It has some similarities in basically the movement templates, but that's about it. You have, these are cars instead of spaceships, and it's a two-dimensional plane instead of 3 dimensions in space. So collisions are more of a thing in this game, as they should be. So each turn is split into gear phases, 6 different gear phases. And they kind of use the car lingo throughout the rule set, which is kind of cool. So vehicles can move between 1 and 6 gears, and each gear is basically an additional activation during the turn. So if you're in gear 6, you're in the highest gear possible in a performance car, you're going to be moving and potentially shooting your car every single gear phase of that turn. Whereas if you're only going you're only in gear 1, you're only going to move in the first gear phase of that turn, and then everyone else who's at a higher gear is going to keep going and going and going, but you're going slow, so you've only moved once and fired once. So that's really a cool feature of the game. So each turn has these 6 gear phases. The other neat thing is the concept of being able to perform your maneuver, and then just like X-Wing has stress, Gaslands has hazards. But they kind of do the same thing. So here we see some templates you can cut out for your Hot Wheels cars. And these, depending on the speed, could be a hazardous maneuver, it could be an easy maneuver. Think of it as like your red and green maneuvers in X-Wing, X-Wing version 1 anyway. But you can't use like the very long maneuver template here, the long straight, unless you are going speeds or gears 5 or 6, which is cool. Whenever you place a maneuver, you take a check, and the check is called a skid check. And basically you roll some special skid dice. You can order some skid dice from several people, or you just translate it. It has a chart, so you could just roll regular d6 if you want. But basically the skid check lets you get shift results, which are good, lets you cancel out bad results, and or you might roll a hazard, a spin, or a slide. So you might slide out of your turn, or you might spin at the end of your maneuver. Spinning can be good, spinning can be bad sometimes. Slides too. So you can actually use these things to your advantage, like sliding around terrain to avoid a collision, or spinning to represent, maybe drifting around a corner in a sharper turn. Very cool stuff. But then you build up hazard tokens. So as you build up hazard tokens, when you get to 6, your car makes a wipeout check. And basically it spins out. It could do a flip check. It could flip, do extra damage to itself, and so on, which is really cool. That's really the gist of the game. I mean, the game itself is fairly simple. There are some interesting dynamics as far as how things happen and what order they apply, but if you're used to any kind of miniatures game, it's going to be pretty easy to pick up. Collisions are pretty cool, and of course, this being a post-apocalyptic racing game, you can have weapons on your cars. So you can put all the way from like machine guns and Molotov cocktails to I think an electric lightning gun, mine droppers, anything you might expect. It's got in the game. The other cool thing it has is the ability to design your own cars. So you have the vehicle weapons and upgrades. So you get a car or truck or whatever, and it gives you a certain number of points. It has certain attributes, and then you can put what weapons or upgrades you want on it. You want a turreted machine gun, you want a mine dropper, you want to add extra armor, or maybe a nitro booster. All of those things are options. And also the ability to use different things, not just cars. You can use motorcycles, buggies, helicopters, gyrocopters, even the mighty war rig, which is basically an 18-wheeler. All of those things are options. So Gaslands itself is a lot of fun. We played a couple of games. I do intend to film at least one to put on the channel so that you guys can see us play it. I do want to get a little bit more comfortable with the rules before I do that, though. But it's a lot of fun, and more than half of the fun is playing with the cars. Going out and buying your Hot Wheels car and then modding it up, adding machine guns and whatever. And that will be a separate video. I'm going to do a separate video about Gasland cars and modding. But for right now, just some final thoughts.